welcome to Ad America. My name is Genara, one of the e-guides here in Ad America, and I hope that everyone is having a wonderful day today. For those of you new here, and for those of you who don't already know, Ad America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. Our event today is called Interfaith Dialogue, Gender Equality at the Heart of Society. In this event, we will be learning and discussing the importance of gender equality among religious institutions and also our society. But before I start this event, we have a little trivia for you. And our trivia question for today is it true or false? The first attempt to organize a national movement for women's rights in the US occurred in Seneca Falls, New York. You can submit your answer on our social media platforms, and for those of you who are able to answer it correctly, will receive a live shout out from us. And now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our moderator for today. He is Nathaniel Pribadi, founder of Logos ID. To Nathaniel, the time is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome again. I'm Nathan. As you can see also from yesterday, I'm also the moderator. And today, Interfaith Dialogue, we will focus more on the woman and religion. But before we continue, we will have an interactive session like we do yesterday also. So maybe we can start by the interactive session first. And you will see there are a QR code on the screen that you guys can scan. We will use mentimeter.com. And there are 6 questions simple questions that we will do today. You can go to menti.com and use the code 7206 7607. And maybe we will wait for another seconds or minutes. And as today we have international speakers, so it will be mixed between English and Bahasa Indonesia. So yep, that's the information before we begin the interactive session. Yep, you can go by scanning the barcode or directly go to menti.com on your browser and use the code 7206 7607. And yeah, I want to welcome everyone who are in the venue as well. It's really good to see you guys offline, on site again. After 2.5 years pandemic and we do everything online. Okay. Okay, maybe we can start the interactive session for today. So the first question is, I think that women and men are considered equally in my religion. So you can vote. There are 4 options here. The strongly agree, agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. This interactive session is focused more on our understanding on the religious freedom and women and religion topics as we will discuss today. Okay, thank you everyone for answering. And we will go to the second question. I think that religion is important to the meaning and implementation of gender equality. So yes, you can vote again. Another 4 options: strongly agree, agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. Okay. Thank you for answering the second question. We can go to the third question. I am most comfortable when everyone has the same religion as me. Yep, you guys can vote. And as it is anonymous vote, so feel free to answer based on your feeling. Okay. Maybe, okay, there are already 8%. Thank you for answering. And the fourth question will be, I think that all practitioners of my religion can play a role in supporting gender equality. All right. We will have two more questions after this, so go on this. All right. Okay. Thank you everyone for voting. We can go to the next question. I appreciate it when religious leaders can discuss gender equality issues. Okay, now you can vote again. Uh, we will do the interactive session 2 times. This is the first times, and after the talk show, we will do it again with the same question to figure out is there any difference between our perspective after hearing the talk show. Okay, thank you for answering. And the last question will be, oh, okay, sorry. We have 5 questions for today. Again, thank you all for answering the interactive session today. And maybe we will begin our talk show today. But before that, I'll introduce you to 3 of the speakers today. So the first one, I'll say the CV too. The first one is Prita Bansal. Hi, Prita. Can you hear me? I hope.
I can. Yes.
Okay, nice to meet you, Prita. So yeah, Prita is an American lawyer who has spent more than 30 years in senior roles in government, global business, and corporate law. And she was appointed to URI's President Council, the largest grassroots interfaith peace building organization in the world, with more than 1 million volunteers in more than 108 countries. She was also the General Counsel and Senior Policy Advisor in the Federal Office of Management and Budget during Barack Obama's presidency. And she also served as a commissioner and chair of the US Commission on International Religious Freedom, a bipartisan federal human rights agency. So please welcome Prita to the stage today. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Yep, and the next speaker is Romo Magnis, Romo Franz Magnis Suseno. He's a Jesuit priest and an emeritus professor at the Arcana School of Philosophy. He published several journals and books in the fields of ethics, political philosophy, Japanese worldview, and religious philosophy. He was also awardee of Bintang Mahaputra Utama from the President of the Republic of Indonesia in 2015. He received her PhD in philosophy from the University of Munich. Hi, Romo Magnis. Okay. And the third speaker for today is Bu Misbah Zulfa Elizabeth, or we can call Bu Zulfa. She's the Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences at Wali Songo State Islamic University, Semarang. She's also a participant in a conflict resolution course at Arizona State University, funded by BCA of the US State Department. She's also the author and co-author of articles on Islamic religion and gender studies in national and international journals. She received her PhD in anthropology at Universitas Gadjah Mada. Halo Bu Zulfa, apa kabar?
Halo Mas Nathan, alhamdulillah baik.
Oke, so kita udah melihat 3 speakers kita pada hari ini, dan tentunya kita akan memulai perbincangan pada malam hari ini atau pagi hari di tempat Prita. Dan as I say before, this will be a mix between bahasa Indonesia and English language. So everyone, as we can see, many people use religion to stoke the fear of the other. People from different faiths are routinely labeled security threats. Religion becomes an excuse to justify misogyny, homophobia, and racism. This is pretty concerning, and this will lead to the first question to open today's discussion. Maybe I would like to ask firstly to Romo Magnis, but Romo Magnis, can you hear my voice?
Yes, maybe you can ask others first.
Oh,
I've just joined. I want to listen.
Okay, sure, Romo Magnis. Maybe we can first go to Prita first. So the question is, how should the world commit to protecting an individual's right to freedom of religion? So that will be the first question, and Prita can help answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I guess I would just say it's important to talk not just about freedom of religion, but a broader right, which is the freedom of thought, conscience, religion, or belief, which is the language that is used in the Article 18 of the UN Declaration of Human Rights. And I say that because it's not just the freedom to practice one's religion, it's also the freedom to believe or not believe. And that includes the right to dissent from state imposed orthodoxy. And that's actually an important aspect of religious freedom for women. I spent a bunch of time in Afghanistan in 2003 and 2004 when when there was a change of regimes there, and it was important when we were talking about religious freedom in that country to talk about not just religious freedom, but like I said, that freedom of thought, conscience, religion, because for so often women, especially Muslim women, their right often they needed to be able to define what their beliefs were, not just have that imposed by the orthodoxy of the state religion. So I think it's important to talk about that. We're obviously seeing a rise of authoritarianism in the world, and it's coming in part in many parts of the world through religious movements, which is merging religion with the politics of the state. We're seeing it in some of the largest democratic countries, including the United States and India. We're certainly seeing it in Afghanistan. We're seeing it in so many parts of the world. And religious orthodoxy, or the religion, has been a tool for oppressing the freedom of thought, conscience, or belief. So that's why I talk about it in that broader term. It's not just freedom of religion, it's freedom of individual belief. And I guess I would say that we're seeing that take place in a number of forms, that rising authoritarianism and the tools for suppression of freedom of religion or belief. One is just the suppression of religion altogether in certain countries. And that often happens in countries that are committed to more of a secular or Marxist view of religion as not a legitimate ground for existence. So certain countries are suppressing religion altogether. Certain countries, we see kind of an official state religion or the codification of certain religions, where certain groups may have more rights than others. We're seeing it sometimes in just an inadequate state, so inadequate protection of private violence against religious minorities. And then there's a little bit more of a range where you might have complicit state actors in private violence. So there may be, a dominant religion persecuting members of minority faiths, but the state looking the other way because they might be, complicit in some way in that. So we're definitely seeing a rise of, and this goes on throughout history. There's an ebb and flow, but I think we're possibly in a state where, we're seeing some suppression of freedom of religion or belief. So, all of the ways, I guess, to go to your question, the ways to protect it is really to have a broader view. It's not just the freedom of religion, but the freedom of thought, conscience, religion, or belief, which includes the right to believe or not believe, and also to dissent from state-imposed or particular orthodoxy by a particular group of people claiming to define what a religion is or what it stands for.
Okay, thank you so much, Prita, for the answer. Yeah. And maybe the same question I will ask to Bu Zulfa. Maybe I can ask again about the question is, how should the world commit to protecting an individual's right to freedom of religion? And Bu Zulfa can use English or Bahasa Indonesia, every anything you are comfortable with.
Okay. I will try in English first, Mas Nathan, and then
Yep.
I will continue in Bahasa Indonesia because the audience mostly Indonesian, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
I just forget the question, Mas Nathan.
Sorry. The question.
Yeah.
Yeah. The question is, how should the world commit to protecting an individual's right to freedom of religion?
Yeah, of course, this is one of the principle in human right. I think for for uh, for doing some really religious right. So I think it must be supported by all of the countries who uh, support this uh, convenient. I think. Ya, jadi hak untuk beragama. Saya rasa ini merupakan hak kemanusiaan yang harus didukung oleh siapapun yang mengakui keberadaan kemanusiaan itu, karena pada hakikatnya manusia mempunyai hak untuk beragama, untuk meyakini agamanya, dan juga implementasi dari agama itu. Dan dalam kenyataan memang ini merupakan sesuatu yang mahal, karena di berbagai belahan dunia orang masih melakukan diskriminasi atas kelompok-kelompok agama tertentu, sehingga kita melihat minoritas di berbagai wilayah di dunia itu mengalami hambatan untuk meyakini kebenaran agamanya pun dalam melakukan aktivitas keagamaannya. Dan kalau kita melihat kepada perempuan itu lebih berat lagi. Perempuan secara gender merupakan subordinated group. Sementara keyakinan juga keyakinan agama, kemudian diskriminasi yang dibebankan kepada kelompok agama tertentu menjadikan perempuan semakin tersubordinasi dan juga mengalami super burden akibat proses diskriminasi serta pemilahan gender yang dialami, sehingga kita harus menyadari tentang itu dan kemudian ya mari bersama-sama untuk mengembangkan dan improving our society to become more equal society. Saya rasa begitu, Mas Matan.
Oke, terima kasih sekali Bu Zulfa atas jawabannya. Dan mungkin pertanyaan yang sama juga akan aku tanyakan kepada Romo Magnis. Romo Magnis, apakah sudah bisa menjawab atau masih ada teknis yang perlu?
Bisa, saya baru saja masuk.
Oh,
Suara saya kedengaran?
oh, oke, baik Romo Magnis. Mungkin aku bisa memberikan pertanyaan kembali. Jadi untuk pertanyaan pertama adalah how should the world commit to protecting an individual's right to freedom of religion? Itu untuk membuka pertanyaan sesi diskusi pada hari ini. Romo.
You want me to answer in English? I will try. My English is bad. Am I understood? Do you hear what I say? Anda mendengar yang saya katakan atau tidak?
Terdengar tapi ada feedback sedikit, Romo.
Sekarang saya tidak dengar suara Anda.
Halo, Romo Agnes, apakah sekarang sudah terdengar?
Keluar ini. Saya.
Romo Agnes sudah terdengar suaranya?
Okay. Sekarang saya dengar suara Anda juga.
Oke.
Tadi suara Anda hilang.
Oke. Yep. Apakah pertanyaannya tadi terdengar, Romo Agnes, atau bisa aku ulang?
Diulangi.
Oke, boleh. So, the first question will be, how should the world commit to protecting an individual's right to freedom of religion?
I think this is a very general question. I mean, the world, what is the world? There's a difference between states that in their constitution acknowledge religious freedom or not. States that do not acknowledge them, well, you can maybe try to convince them that they do it. They should do it, but whether it succeeds or not, I'm not sure. Other states, for instance, we in Indonesia, we have it is clearly said the freedom of religion and belief expressed in the Constitution. It's a question how to make it real against challenges that we have, challenges of intolerance. Of course, we have intolerance. We have also big tolerance. We have the religions try to get more influence. We have religious radicalism. With all these factors, you have to deal one of them. There's no general, I think, no general answer to your question.
Okay. Thank you, Romagnis. Maybe we can go deeper later on the next question that I'll ask you and other speakers too, especially for the topics itself. But as we know, the topics itself is gender and religion. So woman and religion. So maybe I can go to Bu Zulfa first. So we can more deeper to the topics for today. For Bu Zulfa, the question will be, how significant is the role of women in religious settings in your opinion? And how can women become peacekeepers like that? You're still on mute?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Mas Nathan. This question consists of two points. The first one is related the role of women in religious setting, and the second, how can women become peacekeepers? It is an effort or a struggle. So I want to try to answer the first one. It's related to the role of women in the religious setting. I think discussing about women, we can separate it with the discussion about gender. It is related to the role in many aspects. So I'm interested in answering this question is that women have a very significant role in my opinion in religious setting. Why I answer this? Because in factual data, I think women have so many roles both in the religious or in the community circle or community development. The first, in the role of religious development, for example, we can see that so many women play significant and important role in their religious teaching. So they may teach the religious teaching to all of the society members, not only the women but also men, women, and also children, and both in the family circle and also in the community area or community sphere, I think. And this is the first. And the second, they also have the role in the society. They take part and participate in so many circles. For example, in education, whatever the professional, for example, as the teacher of the lecturer in the university, or also in the social level, for example, in the social organization, and also in politics. I think based on this data, we can see that factually women may take their role in so many circles and also in religious setting. But related to the role of women in peacekeeping, based on our experience, Mas Nathan, we in the State Islamic University Wali Songo, we have Wali Songo Mediation Center. This is the center which concern to the study of peace and conflict resolution. And we have so many chances to take part in training and then dialogue and also conference and so many meeting with like Interfaith dialogue. and we also have so many chance to give the training. And I found in all the circle, women take part in that occasion. So I think the point is that effectually women take part in all of the sphere, but really in some area or in some occasion, there's so limited women who take part in the peacekeeping program. I think because peacekeeping is imagined as hard sphere, like politics, for example, that need much energy, that women, meanwhile, women imagine as weak, uh, yes, as a weak person. So that is why a limited person that who take part in the process of peacekeeping program. So what I want to say is that factually on their participation in the process of peacekeeping, they do their work and job well. But why women is so limited in that area? This is the point, I think, because our gender is so strong, uh, and woman is conceptualized as weak. So this is the thing that we must build, and increasing the society member about factually no differences in capacity between men and women in the area of peacekeeping program. That is the point, Mas Nathan. And I think once again, why so limited person in peacekeeping program, a woman in peacekeeping, because of the gender building in our society. That's Mas Nathan.
Thank you very much, Bu Zulfa, for the answer. And yes, as you can hear earlier, guys, so we should like break the conceptualization of women as weak, but not. In fact, women are not weak at all. They are as strong as men also. And maybe we can go deeper to Prita now. So maybe the question will most likely the same, but maybe how is the role of women significant, especially in the United States? So we already know the general and the in Indonesian, but how about in the United States, Rita?
Okay, well, I'm not sure I could generalize for an entire country or continent, but I will say this, that I think I personally think it's important to distinguish between a woman as a gender identity versus female energy, so the feminine or the divine feminine energy. And I say that because in the West in particular, and in America in particular, there's so much, I feel like there's an imbalance between the masculine and the feminine in the world. And the way I define that, I think of the feminine as a vessel for, kind of like the indigenous communities, like a vessel for truth, intuition, wisdom. And masculine is often a bringing forth of a bright, intense vision into the world. And you need both. We need the feminine. We need the access to the wisdom and the deeper intuition, and that intuitive voice which perceives the truth. But we also need the masculine to bring that forth and take action. But in the West in particular, and I would say in America, there's so much emphasis on action, reaction, on all of those male energies. And so to bring the world back into balance, we need strong feminine energy. And the reason I say we need to distinguish that from gender is that it's, both men and women have both energies, both masculine and feminine energies. And sometimes women, when they've succeeded in, the highest aspects of society, they've often had to internalize a lot of masculine energy. So just having women in positions of power doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get divine feminine energy. It's more likely you will, but not always. So I say that I think it's important to distinguish between women and gender as an identity with the energy of feminine, and I define that as kind of more in touch with compassion, in touch with wisdom, in touch with receptivity. And just a couple, quotes that are meaningful to me, I think. One is by former UN diplomat and president of the General Assembly, Jan Eliasson. He said that without passion, nothing happens. Without compassion, the wrong things happen. And I think of that as in terms of the male and the female energy. Without the male energy, nothing happens. But without compassion, the wrong things happen. So it's important to have both. And so in terms of how to bring that more into the world, the feminine energy, I think it's really inserting opportunities for reflection, for wisdom, and for contemplation into all aspects. One of the things I do in very traditional settings, whether they be corporate or government, is often have like a moment of mindfulness to start things and to center people into the moment. There's so much urgency in the world and such a sense of stuckness in the world. There's a wonderful Nigerian intellectual by the name of Bayo Okomolafi who says that the times are urgent. Let us slow down. So that to me is the feminine energy, like that. That's how do we slow down? How do we act compassionately? How do we act with wisdom? So I don't think that that's dominant in America. I think America is a place of moving fast. There's a lot of masculine energy. We often do the wrong things because we're so eager to just do and act. But it's absolutely vital to bring that feminine energy into the world, and I think both men and women can do that.
Okay, thank you, Preeta. And guys, we already see the perspective from Preeta and Bu Zulfa on this topic, and maybe we could move to Romo Magnis. So maybe the question for Romo Magnis is more into what are the biggest obstacle for women to be equal in society, including in religious settings, and maybe how to solve these obstacles, maybe from the perspective of Romo Magnis?
Well, I can only speak from my experience. In Indonesia, I would say that culturally, at least in many parts of Indonesia, I do not know all of Indonesia very well. I know especially well maybe Javanese. The role of woman is actually very big. They called in Javanese, they are called the comrade behind Koncoweek King, meaning I, for instance, experienced when I visited 50, 60 years ago, sometimes Catholic families in the region of Yogyakarta. And there was we were sitting in the front room, and I was opposite the men, while the women was preparing tea, but the talking one was the women from behind. She was the talking, and the men only said, yes, yes, yes. I also hear with Javanese that the real decisions in family are taken by the woman. What has to happen with the children, also they take the money because their husbands with money, they are said to behave like children. If you don't take the money away quickly, then they will give it out for gaming or things like that. And so I think the impact of women on the society is very great, also on peacemaking. If you take it in religion, there's of course one problem. My problem in the Catholic Church, this is now a controversial point, but maybe also in Islam, Zulfa could say this. The point is, in the church or in the mosque, the one that do the talking, amen, and the women don't say a thing. Thus, officially, they cannot say so much. in Indonesia, I have the impression there's a very strong woman movement. Thus, women are a strong pillar of, let us say, peace and reconciliation and openness in society, but there's still much to do. I'm quite sure that we have to do more there, and it has especially to come from the woman. I think in general there was the point, for instance, when Ms. Megawati Soekarno Putri could become president or not. At that time, many were thinking women cannot become a president. But she constitutionally became president, and she chose Hamza Hass as vice president, as her vice president, and since then the question is over. We have no longer a question. Sometimes breakthroughs are necessary. I'm, as regards Indonesia, very optimistic and hopeful what regards women. Maybe this is for me.
Okay, thank you so much, Romo Magnus. And yeah, maybe the answer from Romo Magnus itself lead us to another question that I will ask to Ibu Zulfa about what do you want to convey to the public to be more aware that women play a big role in increasing religious tolerance.
I think that this is the point that factually society can be transformed into more modern and improved society. Saya rasa pembicaraan seperti ini yang memberikan kesempatan kepada kita, yang memungkinkan masyarakat itu bertransformasi. Jadi konsep tentang gender yang mensubordinasi perempuan, saya rasa dengan berbagai fakta tadi juga Prof. Magnus sudah menyampaikan bahwa perempuan tidak lemah, perempuan mempunyai peran yang luar biasa. Nah, tapi konsep dari masyarakat itu tidak bisa semudah itu untuk disampaikan. Ada peran-peran tertentu yang dikonsepkan bahwa perempuan tidak pantas. Dan tadi Pak Prof. Romo tadi juga menyampaikan contoh ketika Megawati menjadi presiden, betapa diskursus pada waktu itu adalah berkait dengan perempuan. Meskipun kita juga bisa berdebat karena unsur politik juga pada waktu itu masuk, Mas Nathan. Nah, tapi apa yang bisa menjadi poin di sini adalah konseptualisasi itu berubah generasi by generasi. Ya, jadi dari generasi yang satu ke yang lain, konsep itu berubah karena setting sosial kita juga berubah, tingkat pendidikan masyarakat yang semakin tinggi, kemudian juga media yang begitu meluas, yang kemudian memunculkan pemahaman-pemahaman yang lebih baru, dan kemudian juga ada pembuktian. Kemudian juga ada data yang menunjukkan bagaimana peran-peran yang semula dimainkan oleh laki-laki kemudian dimainkan oleh perempuan dan dikerjakan oleh perempuan dengan baik. Nah, ini secara akumulatif kemudian menjadikan konsep itu sedikit demi sedikit berubah. Nah, tapi saya juga concern bukan berarti bahwa perubahan perempuan dalam hal peran-peran kemanusiaan ini kemudian menjadikan perempuan menjadi berkontestasi berhadapan-hadapan dengan laki-laki. Saya rasa Allah menciptakan manusia laki-laki dan perempuan adalah sebagai pasangan, sehingga dia harus saling melengkapi dan duduk secara equal dan diperlakukan secara adil begitu. Sehingga unsur-unsur kemanusiaannya, kemudian potensi-potensi kemanusiaannya dapat diperankan untuk mengembangkan masyarakatnya, Dan ini saya rasa harus disampaikan. Nah, oleh karena itu misalnya saya sebagai seorang akademisi, ya saya harus menyampaikan itu dalam three field of higher education mission. It is related to the teaching and learning. So especially in the State Islamic Studies Wali Songo, we have the study program of Agama dan Perdamaian, Mas Nata, in which Prodi we learn about peace and mediation, and also we have the subject of mediation and peace building. So in this subject, the student will learn about how to maintain the peace word, and also how to mediate and negotiate in the context of conflict. I think this is a very outstanding program in our university, and I think it is rare also in the setting of Indonesia, in which we have the study program and also subject focusing also only in the peace building and conflict resolution, and also in the sphere of research, we have the slot for researching about peace and conflict resolution. So anyone interested in this sphere, so he can compete with other lecturer to take part and get the grant for the research. And also in the community engagement, there is through the Wali Songo Mediation Center, our center focusing in the peace and conflict resolution, we give the training to all to many region in Indonesia, and also give the mediation service to the community needed, and also we give the our time to consult whenever they need the consultation related to the conflict resolution. This is, I think, a wide explanation about how we may change our gender into more progressive view, I think, and also all of the community members need to know about it, that culture can be changed, and we are the actor for the changing. That's all, Mas Nathan.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Zulfa. There's an interesting statements from Bu Zulfa earlier about the changes of conceptualization over time. So maybe 100 years ago, there are less women in science, in politics, but now as we see, there are more women there, and they're as qualified as men, or maybe better than men in this a lot of areas. So we should break through this. Yeah. Thank you, Bu Zulfa, for answering this question. And maybe I will pass another question to Prita now. As currently being chairs and serves on the boards of numerous global, national, and local organizations, how can women take on more roles in promoting gender equality and women's participation in sustainable peace? Prita.
Well, I think I feel that women's style of leadership is more needed now than ever before. And I say that because I feel like we're at really a inflection point in our history, of the world's history. And this happens every few hundred years. We have these critical inflection points where we have changes in technology and science that then cause changes in our social organization. So with the invention of the printing press in the 15th century, for example, that gave rise to the Protestant Reformation, the decline of the Holy Roman Empire, and the rise of nation states. There was an invention of the steam engine in the 1700s, and that led to factories, urbanization, and kind of an outpouring of moral philosophy from Adam Smith to Rousseau and Mill that created the modern state and our market economy. And I say this because I think just in the past 20 years, we've seen, the digital revolution now transforming exponentially our social, government, and economic systems. And so all of this is kind of paving the way for female leadership. And I'm seeing this in so many sectors in which I'm involved, whether it's business or government or the nonprofit sector, peace building, religion. We now, with the digital revolution, we have a situation where an individual can produce and distribute what it took governments, a single individual working out of a garage can do what, it used to take governments, corporations, and massive social institutions to do in previous centuries. And each of us individually has access to powerful technologies that can, for example, re-engineer our lifespans, design our children, and remake our DNA, or even destroy the planet. And so I feel like, with this digital revolution, we have a situation where power now lies in networks, not kind of, vertically as nodes in an organizational chart. And the kind of traditional hierarchical command and control organization that drove efficiency during the industrial era has given way to this more networked approach. And female women leaders are much more equipped and just intuitively equipped to lead in a way that brings in other voices, that drives kind of more participatory conversations, that lead to a broader tapping into of collective intelligence. And that's critical because we're at a point where nobody knows the answers. The world is changing so quickly. We hear about exponential growth, we hear about exponential disruption. That's what's happening. And there's obviously in every generation, every era of history, we've had disruptive change. But what's different now is the speed of that. Just so, for example, it took something like 450 years to go from the invention of the printing press around 1440 to the telephone in 1876. So that was 18 generations. But it's been less than 100 years, or just 4 generations, to go from the telephone to the personal computer. And it's taken 1 generation, less than 30 years, to have massive disruption in core industries, in our systems of governance. We're seeing this with Facebook elections. We're seeing this with the way news and media is spread. So we're seeing this massive disruption. It used to be that you could, the average lifespan, you would go to college, you would get your degree, and then you would be in a career for 30, 40 years. Well, they're saying now that the half-life of an engineering degree, for example, is 18 months. So by the time you've graduated from college, a lot of your knowledge is obsolete. So because we're in this era of such rapid, accelerating, disruptive change, it's a different set of capacities that need to be awakened. And it's, the world is spinning around us. We're going to need to be more anchored, more grounded in wisdom and our clearest intuition. It's not just knowledge that's going to get us there. Computers are going to take the way, artificial intelligence will replace our knowledge. So, so I'm seeing this in a lot of the sectors. You asked me about the boards I serve on. So much of what's happening now is learning how to navigate this era of constantly disruptive change, and with no one person having the answer. And women with the leadership style of more participatory decision making, of drawing in the voices and the collective wisdom of so many people, I think it's uniquely positioned now to play a major role. And it's not just a matter of peacekeeping. I would say it's a question of meaning making. In a world that's kind of spinning out of control and all of our sectors being disrupted, our ability to make sense of it, to make meaning, to draw stories, to be able to organize people, that's something that traditional hierarchical style of leadership is not well equipped to do. But a more circular, participatory style, which is the hallmark of female leadership, I think, is very well equipped to do, and we're seeing that.
Okay, thank you so much, Preeta, for the answer. We learned so much from the conversation. And Maybe this will be the last question that I will ask Romo Martinez and other speakers before we go into the quick Q&A session. So everyone online or on site, please do prepare your questions. Yeah, Romo Martinez. So the last question is, in a male capacity, how can you help the involvement of women as peacekeepers in Indonesia?
It's a good question. I think you have to ask the women that communicate with me what makes it difficult for them or what makes it easy for them. I, of course, do not feel to have any problems. I have colleagues at the Riyakara School of Philosophy, and I know many, especially Indonesian women. I also have quite a number of women relatives back in Germany, and so thus I think we should be open. Just I do not ask whether this is a man or this is a woman. I meet the person, and if she's a woman, I'm glad, and I don't feel any a priori problems against women, also, of course, not against men. Just take people as they are according to their qualities. But I believe, as Usulva says, women have to be given more formal opportunities also in leadership to bring in their great capacity of communication and so on. And thus, in Indonesia, I always feel that women are a very positive element also in the relation between different ethnics and cultures, and also between different religions. It is just positive that there are women. It is also clear that also in Indonesia, as Sulva said, there is still a strong male domination, especially formally, that patriarch is still very strong also in Indonesia. If we get rid of this patriarchat, I think it will be of advantage for all of us.
Okay, thank you, Romo Magnus, for the answer. So yeah, guys, so let's everyone get rid of patriarch in Indonesia. So now we will move on to the Q&A session. So there are already several questions in in the social media on Twitter, YouTube, and maybe here on site. Maybe we can have one or two questions. Maybe I can ask anyone here on site wanna ask a question. If there are no one, I can go through the social media at America. Anyone here? Okay, maybe not so far. So maybe I'll ask a question. There's a question from Cynthia on Twitter. To Prita, what is your tips for women who are still struggling in freedom, such as having a superior husband or superpower boss?
I'm sorry, can you just repeat that? I didn't catch all of that.
Sorry.
My tips?
Yeah, what is your tips for women who are still struggling in freedom, such as having a superior husband or superpower boss?
Well, there's nothing more powerful than internal power. Obviously, there's power outside of us that keeps us down, and so many roles and obligations within the family, within the workplace that we have to play. You know, I always tell people it's not fair, but oftentimes women have to be twice as good, work twice as hard, and then somehow seem calm and not be angry because they've had to do that. But that is the reality, I think. It's just, for me, it took a long time to, not feel like that was unjust. And I think just accepting that that is the state of the world, not fighting against it, but just understanding that there are things that we're going to have to do that are extra. And it's not, that doesn't mean you have to do it. I mean, every woman has to make a decision about what's the right level of involvement, comfort, effort she wants to put into different scenarios. But just understanding that in the workplace, especially in a Western workplace, in a Western environment, it takes oftentimes twice as much effort, twice as much competence to be recognized in the same way as men. And so there's a wonderful study that came out about a few years ago from McKinsey, the global consulting firm, which said that most often men are promoted on the basis of potential and women on the basis of performance. And so what that means is that men are often given their stretch job. They're promoted first, and then they're given an opportunity to prove themselves in that role. Women, a lot of times, and this was backed up by McKinsey with a lot of data, women often have been doing that role, serving those functions for many years before they actually get the promotion that out of the roles they've already been playing. So we have to first do it, prove our worth, and then we get the recognition, whereas a lot of times men are given that opportunity to show themselves in the role before they've even done it. So it's not fair, it's not just, it's somehow adjusting one's mind to accept that is the reality, I think, and just going for it, just continuing to perform. And I think the thing that most often sometimes I've done, and I include myself in this, sometimes women, we will do all the work, we'll perform, do everything at home, do everything at work, and do an amazing job, but somehow that little bit of frustration ends up being self-sabotage. So then we don't get the benefit of it. So I would say just somehow keep calm, recognize the reality that you are paving the way for other women behind you, and do what you're comfortable doing, and stay calm.
Okay, thank you very much, Prita, for the answer. And maybe before you leave this place and before we go to the next question, maybe I can give the time for Prita again, maybe for the closing statement from you before you leave.
Oh, yeah, no, I actually I don't really have much to say in closing other than it's a delight to be with you all. It's an important topic, and I'm glad you're taking it up. I was interested in hearing Ms. Zulfa's answer to the prior question. I would love to hear her thoughts.
Okay, sure. And maybe Bu Zulfa and Romo Magnis want to answer the questions too. Maybe from the Bu Zulfa first.
Okay, this is a very interesting question, Mas Nathan. But if the question is that how can we manage the dominant boss or husband? Yes, I think this question can be separated to the discussion of culture. Yeah, relation between men and women is closely related to the close relation. If we have no close relation, so there is no problem within it. So we can take the picture of a family as the picture of relation between men and women. So I want to underline that on the time women get married with men, so the period, the early period of the accommodation between the two persons is really captured by culture. How men become husband and how women become a wife, it is cast by culture. And how strong culture to cast them is that something like yes, mode a mode piece. Yeah, very very strong. So, this is not something un, un imaginable to be changed, as I mentioned before. Culture can change, and the actor of the change is the person. So once the two person, the man and woman, have the commitment to change, the inequality become the equal relation. So I think it is very possible. And the basic principle here is, uh, yeah, give the respect each other as the human being. He as the male and she as the woman has their own capacity and capability, and we must uh, give our respect to the capacity. So this is the basic. If it is built each other, I think the new culture can start in the family. And based on the theory that culture must be based on the society, if one family and two family and three family and etc. have the common principle as the first family, I think it is very possible that our culture of equality can better and better. I only want to uh, underline the relation in the family because it is the basic of the gender relation. Related to the boss, I think we have uh, the other strategy, how to make the boss realize that also we are women, but we have the capacity to do our job, for example. This is the other strategy. But in the family, I think uh, we can uh, yeah to make an important underlining issue. I think the principle here once again is the basic of the relation. Yeah, respect each other and also uh, love each other. Uh, the purpose is make our partner growing better and more success as human being. They can give their capacity and capability to the society. I think that, Mas Nathan.
Thank you so much, Zulfa, for the great answer there. And maybe, sorry, the Romo Macris want to answer the question also. Yeah.
Yes, I think it
Yep.
is a quite important question. I agree with Sulva, and I also agree with Preta. Women has to prove themselves first. Finally, they are acknowledged, while men are taken for granted, and then we will see whether they are good or not. But there's one important point, is of course education. I can give you an example from within the Catholic Church. Yes, there are, of course, there are now big discussions why only male can be ordained priests and bishops. And this is an important thing. I personally am of the opinion that there's no reason why not to ordain women, but there's something different. I'm a member of the Catholic Jesuit order. We do a lot of work, and I would say 3/4 of the things Jesuits do, including myself, I'm a former university teacher, can be done directly by women also. Why are so few religious sisters in the Catholic Church that are quiet intelligence and could, in such position, they could do almost all the things Jesuits do? The answer is very easy. They don't get the same education. A Catholic priest, in order to become priest, has to study a certain amount of philosophy and theology. This doesn't mean that he's very good, but it's a certain base. But our religious sisters, they do not have to study this, and therefore they are not able to enter in religious works that they actually could do, and some of them are already doing very well. There are sisters that have studied philosophy and theology, but I would say education is a key element in involving women out of the family in other things in the society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Romagnis, for the answer. And maybe we can go to the last question from the audience. So the last question is from Safira Salsa from YouTube. So the question is, what is specific capacity that women is really need in the 21st century, especially in terms of leadership and equality towards gender? Maybe we can start again from Prita. Sorry, can you hear the question?
Yeah, sorry, I brushed off for a second, but yeah, I think just what we were talking about. I think more participatory leadership. I think the kinds of we're in an age of complexity. The kinds of complex problems that are facing every sector, whether in education or government or business, they're not, they're the definition of a complex problem is it's not linear cause and effect. There's many things that many sources that feed into that, and I think handling or solving complex problems requires a capacity to really bring in many voices, and like I said, that kind of collective intelligence. It's more participatory. And it's not participatory as a matter of ideology, or democracy. It's participatory as a matter of problem solving and effective problem solving. So I think women are very well equipped to have that style of leadership that is more appropriate in an age of networks rather than industrial command and control style organization. So thank you.
Thank you, Prita, for the answer again. And maybe we can go to Ibu Zulfa for the same question.
Yes, it is a very interesting question, Mas Nathan, related to specific capacity for women in leadership in 21st century. Yes, I think with the increasingly massive of media and higher awareness of our society related to the gender equality, this is the point that we must take in our consideration. So here, whatever happen in one side in our world, it will be heard in the person all over the world. So the sensitive things in the leadership point is that the mutual respect to other. I think if we consider this point, I think it will be safer for the woman in their capacity as a leader, because media will take part in blow up the problem related to the gender inequality. For example, there is a sexual harassment done by the person. So it is impossible for the person to hide from the media, for example, and public will punish hardly to the sin. So here I think the most important capacity is mutual respect to others. And the other capacity, like the technical capacity related to one job and other, and the capacity in management and personal integrity, it will combine each other in order to make a woman become a great and strong leader. I think that Mas Nathan.
Okay, thank you so much, Bu Zulfa. And at last but not least, Rama Magnis, you want to answer the question also?
I would take on the question. I don't think we have to ask for the specific capacity of women. They just have capacities, and they have capacities for all things generally what are done by men, but as Ibu Sulva says, because of cultural traditions, they are regarded as not yet able. This is not. They don't have to prove to having a specific capacity. I think give women the opportunity, and they will show that they have the capacity. This is already enough. Thus, we must overcome the idea that women. The question supposes that actually women are still have less capacity, thus they need a specific capacity, while men are not demanded a specific capacity. Thus, I think give them the opportunity, and of course give them the necessary education, and we will not have a question whether women have the capacity. They will show that they have.
Okay, thank you, Romagnis. And thank you again for Bu Zulfa and Prita for answering all of the questions. Today from me, from the audience as well. Yep, so this will be the interfaith dialogue for today. Maybe before we end the program, maybe I can ask every speakers here for the closing statements before we close this dialogue and go to another agenda. Maybe we can start from Romo Magnis first for the closing statement.
Thank you. I think I will not say very much. I only want to say it is very important we go on opening up cultural, occupational, political, religious space to be filled by women. We will all be better off if women take really their positions there together with men. Thus, it is important to increase the awareness that there are still deficits in understanding that women are still not yet acknowledged in their real human capacity, and therefore also not able to give all what they can give for the wellness of society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Romo Magnis. And I can pass the baton to Bu Zulfa for the closing statement.
Yes, thank you, Mas Nathan. Yes, in my view, increasing gender equality must be done from all angle and sphere of our life. It is only based on the cultural, also social. So the casting of unequal gender will be changed into more equal one by that effort. So that is why it must involve all of the profession in all of the sphere of our life. Because like in politics, for example, Also, the regulation stated that 30% quota for women, but it is hard to achieve that. It is because of the lack of commitment in the person in the political sphere to implement that. Why? Because their awareness of uh, the mutual respect between men and women, it is lacked too. That is why the awareness is the core of the gender equality effort. After the awareness come out, so it will become the action. So the most important here to give the awareness about the right of women as human being. So the mutual relationship, mutual respect each other must be built between men and women and all of the uh, society members. And it is a hard work, but it must be. And it is the obligation to every woman, every person, I think. Thank you very much, Mas Nathan.
Thank you very much, Bu Zulfa and also Romo Magnis. It is such a great dialogue and learnings for all of us here. I hope that this will not be the end of the discussion. Hope there will be more and more discussion about these topics in outside or in at America itself. So again, thank you, Romo Magnis and Bu Zulfa, for making the time
You're
today.
welcome.
And thank you for audience who are already here until this night. Uh, yep. Maybe before I pass the mic to e-guide, we will have the second interactive session. Yep, the second interactive session. So like the first interactive session, you can scan the barcode here or go to menti.com and use the code 72067607. And we will see how our perspective may be changed before we listen to the talk show today and after we listen to it. And yep, we will wait until 5 to 10 people coming to the menti.com. So yep, you can scan the barcode or go to menti.com and input this code, yeah. 72067607. And we will begin the last interaction session shortly. And yeah. Okay. Maybe we can start the session, interaction. So the first question, the first statement, I mean. I think that women and men are considered equally in my religion. So, yep, you can vote here. And I think there will be 2 slides. The one is the first, yeah, that's it. This is the first session, and now the second session. Okay, we could see there's a slight difference here. Oh no, because the participants is not 9 again. Okay, thank you so much for answering. And we can go to the next statements. The next statement says, I think that religion is important to the meaning and implementation of gender equality. So, yep, take your time to vote on these statements. Okay, there's pretty big differences. The first one mostly agree and now strongly agree. Thank you for answering. So the third question will be, ding ding. I am most comfortable when everyone has the same religion as me. So yep. Yesterday we already see the perspective from Bante and Rabbi, and now from Zulfa, from Prita, from Romo Magne. So many religions we see. Okay, there's also a difference here. Okay, thank you for answering, Gain. So the next statements will be, I think that all practitioners of my religion can play a role in supporting gender equality. So, yep, the vote is coming in. There are more people who are strongly agree for these statements. Cool. All right. And we will go to the last statements, the number 5. It is, I appreciate it when religious leaders can discuss gender equality issues. Okay, this is the last statements we will vote for today. Okay, most of you vote for strongly agree. Okay, so we can see here there's a difference between our perspective before and after we listen to the talk show today. All right, I hope today's dialogue is helpful for us and we can learn many things. Thank you everyone here, and thank you again, Romo Magnis and Bu Zulfa, for taking your time. Okay, now I'll pass the baton to E-Guide. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. And thank you so much, everyone, for your joining us today. Thank you so much for your participation on our event tonight. I would also like to thank our speakers. Today we had Prita, Busulfa, and also Romo Magnis. Thank you so much for sharing to us your knowledge and also your insights today. And thank you as well to Nathan for moderating today's discussion. And earlier in this event, we asked audience members a trivia question. And the question was, is it true or false the first attempt to organize a national movement for women's rights in the US occurred in Seneca Falls, New York? And the correct answer to that is true. In 1848, Seneca Falls Women's Rights Convention marked the beginning of the women's rights movement in the United States. Shout out goes out to @Mikhail Channel from Instagram for answering the question correctly. And thank you as well to everyone else who has also participated. And now for those of you who are interested in attending more of our events and programs, you can visit our website at www.atmerica.or.id. And we are also on social medias. We've got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and also YouTube at AT America. By following us on our social media, you can gain our event updates, fun content, and so much more. All right, with that, it is time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, my name is Genara, and see you soon at the next Ad America event. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.